What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where every single week I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the content that I watch in the WWE Network as well as on the E! Network with my weekly reviews of Total Bellas airing on Sunday nights. So we had our return of Total Bellas after a week off last week due to the 4th of July holiday. Season 3, Episode 7 last night, entitled Save the Date. Dealing with Nikki having to tell her bridesmaids that they will no longer be a part of the wedding. She's going wedding dress shopping. Brie and Brian have their own stuff they're dealing with. Brian is helping Mama Bella with her anxiety. Good episode overall. Let's break it down. We kick off the show with Nikki Bella, JJ, Lauren, and Mama Bella all getting tongue twisted and messing up words by looking up words on their phone. That kind of a random scene. I'm not even really sure why I brought that up, but that's how the show kicks off. We find out that we are 8 weeks out from the wedding. Nikki's planning her bachelorette party. It's coming up pretty quickly. So in the meantime, the Bella twins go to work out, and Brie mentions how Nikki always wants everyone else to be happy before herself, talking about the bridesmaids and how it might be stressing her out and how the whole wedding process has really been kind of taking its toll on Nikki. So Nikki, as of right now, has 10 bridesmaids, apparently all women that are part of one group text they have going. But she has 10 bridesmaids, so obviously overwhelming, but she ends up making the decision, as we'll talk about towards the end of the episode, that she wants none of them to be a part of the wedding, or at least as the bridesmaids. I mean, they'll be at the wedding, of course, but not just as the bridesmaids. Anyway, Brie wants to decorate the house that Nikki was going to be living in. So this is how ridiculous their lifestyle is. Where, as we mentioned a couple episodes ago, that Brie and Brian bought a new house. They sold their house, and I think San Diego, they bought a new one in Arizona, or maybe it was vice versa. I don't remember. Just to buy a bigger house where Nikki can live with them for a little while she was going through the breakup with John. Well, John and Nikki got back together almost immediately, only I think a few weeks later. Unless a few months went by. I don't really remember. Anyway, so Nikki is not moving in after all because they are back together. The wedding is back on. And as a result, Brie and Brian are left with a room where there's nothing going inside. I mean, I think they're going to make it an office space for Birdie B, even though they already have an office for the business. I'm not really sure. But bottom line, that Brie wants to decorate it with some cool stuff. And anyway, they go back over to Napa Valley to go over the wedding ceremony stuff and where they want to do everything, whatever. So Nikki's going through the whole process here, the whole 9 yards here for the wedding. So Brie talks about how art really has helped her escape over the course of her lifetime, how it's been a big part of her relationship with Daniel Bryan. Their first date was at an art gallery, I think in Boston, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been in D.C. Anyway, that's not really important. I'm just remembering that from Brian's book when I read it last year. But yeah, so as a result, she wants to put art in this new room. So, or not just art, but they go and buy antique items. Nikki, Mama Bella, JJ. She buys all this just essentially garbage. I mean, it's not garbage, but a lot of pointless items. And everyone knows someone like this where they'll go out and buy just a bunch of stuff they don't really need, and it's way overpriced. So needless to say, Brian sees the items, isn't really blown away, isn't really impressed. He sees the price and is even more frustrated that Brie wasted all this money on meaningless garbage to go in their new office space. Like spending $100 on a paperclip container. Like, who the fuck could possibly care? You know what I mean? Brian's not impressed. Nikki's not impressed. Anyway, the Bellas go wedding dress shopping. Nikki finds the right dress for her. And then Brie says, the smile that Nikki Bella has on her face right now, she sees that as a turning point in the whole wedding process, because it was all anxiety up to this point, and now she's really enjoying the process, which isn't really the case, but anyway. Speaking of anxiety, Mama Bella's in the car with JJ, John Laurinaitis, and I think someone else, maybe Lauren, and she gets really anxious driving, or at least not driving, but being in the passenger side, being like the backseat driver type of thing. So she gets really, really nervous in the car. We'll get back to that later. It's at this point that Nikki Bella contemplates not having bridesmaids because the whole process has been so overwhelming and so frustrating and so nerve-wracking that she feels that it would be better if there weren't any bridesmaids a part of the wedding. So anyway, it's around this point that Nikki gets nervous thinking about what John Cena's reaction will be, because he's not really involved in the process at all. He's not even in this episode. We don't see John Cena once on this episode. He's busy out doing other things. So she's really dealing with the brunt of this wedding all by herself. and she doesn't really know what John wants, and that's kind of eating away at her and all this other stuff. Anyway, Brie even says that Nikki gets agitated really, really easily, and she has been during the course of the whole wedding process, so kind of negating what she said earlier about Nikki's smile being a turning point in the whole wedding thing. It really wasn't, because she's still probably even more frustrated than she was before, because John's not around to really deal with it, and now Nikki kind of has to go along doing her own thing. Meanwhile, Brie goes to a gallery, like an art show type thing, with JJ and Lauren. Sees a lot of art that she loves, and her mindset behind buying art for the new room is that she goes into John and Nikki's place and sees all this beautiful art that makes her feel a certain way, and it changes your perception of the house. That's her mindset in buying the art. The ridiculous thing about it is that she puts down a $10,000 deposit on this one flimsy piece of art. That's actually $30,000, which is fucking ridiculous. Of course, she worries about what Brian's reaction is going to be. And of course, he freaks out about it. Not really freaks out, but he's like shocked. We'll go back to that in a second. So anyway, Brian wants to help JJ and John Laurinaitis tackle Mama Bella's anxiety in the car. So what Laurinaitis does is put in a passenger park brake, a brake in the passenger side to make it, to make her experience what it feels like to have someone constantly pressing on the brakes. Not really the best way to help her deal with her anxiety. And Brian realizes that and looks to find another way. So anyway, Brian finds out about the art via a notification on his phone, thinking that it's fraud, thinking that someone tried to steal $10,000 from them to spend on art. He finds out that it was Brie after Brie admits to it, and obviously he's shocked. He doesn't get angry. We never really see Daniel Bryan angry. He's way too nice, because I think anyone else would have flipped out about it. But he says, these are the things that we should be doing together, not really you buying $10,000 worth of art without telling me really might not be the best way to go about it. But we should do these type of things together. Or not really do them at all. How about that? Not spend $30,000 on a piece of fucking art. Like, who cares? Anyway, so Brian helps out Mama Bella by taking her to indoor skydiving, which I didn't even know was a thing until this episode, which is cool. But it seems like it's going to help with those that have a fear of skydiving and what it feels like, kind of generate that feeling, what it would feel like if you were actually skydiving. In Brian's mindset, not only helping her, but himself as well, in that these are baby steps and not erasing anxiety forever, because you can't really get rid of anxiety altogether. But what you can do is take steps in dealing with it and, kind of decreasing the amount of anxiety that you feel overall. Kind of like it's not going to erase that anxiety altogether, but what it will help you with is find different ways in the future of dealing with it, as opposed to being overwhelmed by it constantly. So he sees this as a baby step, and they both have a very good time at the place. Anyway, Nikki says that she thought the wedding planning thing would be much more fun than it has been so far, and she now makes the decision all the way up to this point. I mean, we're still 7 weeks out from the wedding, but still, that's a little close to be telling these people that they're now disinvited to be all of her bridesmaids. Again, I'm sure they'll still be at the wedding, but Nikki makes the decision to disinvite all the bridesmaids and not have them be the bridesmaids. And Brie says, you got to go at it alone. I can't help you here. You got to break it to them in person. You can't do over the text. That's pretty, it's a pretty shitty thing to do. So Nikki realizes that. She gets them all together. Not all of them. There's like 3 of them there. Not even, like maybe 2. I think it's Nikki, Brie, and 2 of the bridesmaids. I'm not sure where the other 8 are, but I guess she at least breaks the news to at least 2 of them. But, obviously they're shocked, but they understand. And Nikki comes to terms that the wedding is finally happening, that she's about to get married, and she's ready for the process, even though she's clearly not, because as we see in the preview for next week's episode, she's still nervous, overwhelmed, and just completely in over her head, despite all the times that we've heard over the course of season 3, I'm ready to be married, I'm so excited. Whenever she says, I'm ready for the anxiety and the, all the nerves and all the tension and all that other stuff, all the stressful stuff to be over with, then she runs into some other roadblock that she has to deal with, and then it's a whole other thing. So anyway, that was season 3, episode 7, Save the Date of Total Bellas. A good episode overall. Like the focus on Mama Bella for once, that was cool. And the whole anxiety thing, I think could be applied. I think a lot of people can take away something from that section of this episode in dealing with anxiety. And I mean, I guess kind of Brie doesn't really deal with that as much as Nikki does in this episode. Brie and Brian really have their own thing where this has been a constant this has been a recurring thing here on the show and in Total Divas and shows like that, where one of the Bellas will buy something and then the husband will be like freaking out why they spent so much money on something so fucking ridiculous, and then they'll just get over it and move on. The same thing happened with Miz and Maurice in some recent episode of Total Divas from a couple months ago. It's like, you would think that Brian or Miz or whoever would be angrier than they are, but they're not really angry people, and they don't get angry easily, even when their wives do something insanely stupid. But anyway, that's that. But the anxiety thing is pretty a cool aspect to an otherwise, drama-filled episode. So again, thank you guys for checking out the show. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more near daily content. We'll be back, I believe, this Friday with my review of Table for 3 as seen on the WWE Network. We're talking Table for 3 with Trish Stratus, Lita, and Alexa Bliss, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm looking forward to watching and reviewing that. Until then, guys, be sure to have a great rest of your week. I will be breaking down Miz and Mrs. when that premieres on the USA Network in a couple weeks. I might review that on Fridays and whatever airs in the network on Saturdays. We'll see, or vice versa. We might have a lot of new episodes of Network and Chill in a matter of 1 week, while Total Bellas and Miz and Mrs. are still happening at the same time. So anyway, guys, enjoy your week. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.